Hi everyone, this is Caroline at the Southeast Regional Library. Welcome to our virtual program. Today we are going to be making a Mickey Mouse out of a paper plate. And you might hear that and say, how in the world are we going to do that? But I promise I will show you. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'll show you the couple of things we need first, and then we can jump right into the craft. So we will need a paper plate. So I prefer to have one of the bigger ones because we're going to be doing a lot of painting. So I've got a big paper plate here. Definitely want to be the papery ones and not the ones with a waxy side because it's not going to stick very well with the paint. So a nice paper plate. We need one black piece of construction paper and then a small piece of yellow construction paper. Our black construction paper is going to make Mickey's ears, and then our yellow construction paper is going to make the little gold buttons on his pants. So this does not need to be very big, but you are going to want a full-size sheet for his ears because his ears are pretty big. If you only have white paper at home, like printer paper, that's totally fine. You can always trace and cut your circles and then color them in black and yellow when you need them. So that's our paper. We need red paint and black paint. This is the part I'm most nervous for because I am not very careful with paint, and I'm wearing my favorite Mickey shirt and it's white. So hopefully we can keep ourselves pretty neat and clean. So red and black paint. Of course, if we're using paint, we need a paintbrush. So I've got one here. And then we also need something to write with and something round. I like to use something round to trace circles because I'm not very good at drawing them myself. So I will show you how we're gonna make some circles with this roll of tape and our pencil here. We need a pair of scissors. I've got a very sharp pair here. So if you have a pair like this at home, be sure to ask a grown-up before you use them or get a hand from a grown-up if you need some help. And then last but not least, you're gonna need glue. I'm gonna use a hot glue gun because I want to make sure that our glue is dry in time to show you our craft at the very end. But you can use Elmer's glue, a glue stick, tape if that's all you have at home, that's totally fine. But I'm gonna use our hot glue, and hopefully, just like our tape, or not our tape, tape's not messy, just like our paint, I'm not gonna make a huge mess with our glue gun. We've already got a big glue kind of string here, so hopefully we can stay pretty neat with our glue. But we are going to jump right in. I'm going to grab our paper plate, and we're going to start by putting some red paint on our paper plate very carefully, and it's going to go along one side of our paper plate. So you're going to kind of cut your paper plate in half in your mind. We're not actually going to cut our paper plate. So I've got a little dollop of red paint on my plate, and then I'm just going to take it and kind of start by drawing my sort of halfway point. I think I'm going to go just below halfway since Mickey's pants don't necessarily come like halfway up his body. So I'm going to draw like a little line here. It doesn't have to be a perfectly straight line. It's totally fine if it's not perfect. Feel free to start with a thin layer, and then if you want to kind of thicken the paint up at the end, you can always come back and do another layer over the top of what you've got. So I've got my little line here, and then still got the little dollop on my plate. So now I'm going to use the dollop to spread around and paint this little bottom half here all red. If you don't have paint at home, you can also do this craft with markers. You can do it with crayons, colored pencils, whatever coloring utensils you have at home. You certainly do not have to rule this craft out just because you don't have paint at home. Paint is not the only thing we can color with. Do a thin layer too so that hopefully it dries pretty quickly. The edges of your plate might be kind of tough to paint because they do kind of curve and then flatten out on the table, so I'm trying to be really careful and not paint my table. But you can always put newspaper underneath your plate, or a placemat, or paper towels. Woo! So that you can keep your table paint free. I'm also very picky when it comes to paint. I like I guess markers too. I think I might just be picky when it comes to coloring in general. I like to make sure that all my lines are going the same way. There's something about this, if you can see, with everything going in the same direction that I really like. But you certainly do not have to be as picky as I am about painting. If you don't mind, or if you're not as picky as I am and you just want to kind of paint quick and get the red on, it does not have to be in these perfectly straight, even lines. You can paint however you want. I'm going to use a little bit more paint, not too much more, but I've spread it out pretty well, and I've still got a little bit of an edge on the plate that needs to be painted. So just a dollop more. I don't like to use too much, because we just don't need to waste paint. If we use too much, then we've got gobs of paint everywhere. Not fun. You might have to do a little bit of like stamping on your paper plate with your paintbrush in all those little crevices where the plate has like the little ruffly ridges. So just do the best you can. All right, so here is the bottom half of our plate, all red. Very cute. You might notice your paper plate starts to curl a little bit. That's totally fine. It just happens when paper gets wet, so it should flatten out once our paint is dry. So now for the next part of our plate, where it's still white, we are gonna paint that black, like Mickey's stomach. So let me get a little black paint out here. Whoa. We're starting to run low on this black paint, so it's starting to do the little spitty thing that paint bottles do when they're running low. So we don't want it to splatter. All right, let me go ahead and paint our black up top here. And again, if you want to paint all over, that's totally fine. Miss Caroline is just picky about painting. We're going to try to be really careful coming up to our red line because we don't want to smear the red and the red and the black paint. So I'm going to try and be very delicate and just kind of paint along where I made that first line. Luckily with black paint, if we make any little mistakes, it'll just get covered right up. I'm going to pick my plate up and see if I can get this edge very carefully. Good. All right. Go along the rest of our line here. All right, so I think I've got Mickey's top half here, kind of drawn along the red line, so I think we're good there. I'm going to fill in the rest of the white space with my black paint. Luckily I don't have to be quite as neat as I was with the red because black is so dark it's just going to cover it all right up. right, so we've got our red bottom for Mickey's pants and our black top for Mickey's tummy. I'm gonna set this aside because it's still pretty damp, and we are gonna make Mickey's ears and the little buttons for his pants. So hopefully I used a thin enough layer of paint that that'll dry while we're making those. I'm gonna go dry my paintbrush off really quick so that we don't have any accidents with my paintbrush rolling around all wet and painty. So I'll be right back, and then we will make some ears and some buttons for Mickey's pants. All right, so we've got our paintbrush out of the way so we don't run the risk of rolling that onto ourselves and getting painty. I've cleaned up my little space here a little bit, definitely had some paint on the table, so we wanna make sure we don't get any paint on our paper. So I'm just gonna make sure it's dry. Looks good. All right, and we're gonna start with our black paper. So I'm gonna take our roll of tape here. You can use anything that's a circle like this, a cup, a bowl, as long as you have something with a wide circular surface here, should be good to use. So I'm gonna set my tape roll on top of my paper. I'm gonna try and get it as close to the edge as I can so that I can maybe use this other side for his second ear and then not have to waste a whole half a piece of paper. So I'm gonna use my pencil. You can also use a white crayon if it's a little easier for you to see that when you draw the line around your tape here. But I'm gonna use a pencil and just draw a circle around where our tape is sitting. Sometimes you have to kind of swoop your pencil around the back side here in order to get the full circle done. Woohoo! All right, so you can see maybe it's very, very light. But you can kind of see it in the light there. There's a little circle on the page there. So I'm going to do that a second time. Awesome. There are two circles. It's again a little hard to see because they're very light, but you can catch them in the light right there. So I'm going to cut these out. Like I said, if you would rather use white crayon because it's easier to see on black paper, that's totally fine. I use that trick quite a bit for cutting and drawing circles so I can see my pencil even though it's very light. We're going to cut these guys out. I don't know if anybody else watching, I'm sure if you're watching this, then you are probably a Mickey Mouse fan. But I grew up kind of on Disney. I loved watching Disney movies. My mom actually worked at the Disney store, so I was at the Disney store all the time as a kid. For any grown-ups watching, little guys might not remember, but my grown-up friends might remember that when we were kids, at the Disney store, they had a giant mountain of stuffed animals, and then usually like a big projector screen above the pile of stuffed animals. And my sister and I loved to try to bury ourselves in the pile of stuffed animals. It never really worked, but it was fun to try. All right, here is one of our circles. I'm gonna set that aside, set our scrap paper aside here. We'll recycle that later. And cut out my second ear. It was really fun as a little kid to sometimes go to the mall with my mom when she had to work at the Disney store early in the morning, because we were the only kind of the only people at the mall sometimes. And where I'm from, all the malls are inside. We don't have anything like Santan where it's outside and you know you kind of walk into the stores from the outside, or if you work there you walk in from the back. All the malls back home are indoor. So sometimes you get to the mall really, really early and there was nobody there. It was kind of spooky and fun. All right, perfect. So, got my second ear here. Good to go. I'm gonna set my scissors aside. I've got my two Mickey ears. I'm gonna set those over here. And then for our buttons, this is a smaller circle, so we're not gonna use our tape. I'm actually just gonna attempt to freehand our little buttons. Let's see how it goes. Miss Caroline knows what a circle looks like. She's seen a circle before. She's still not good at drawing a circle. So let's see. You know what? Maybe I could use a little bigger than I would have liked, but you know what? We'll work with it. We're going to use our paint bottle to draw our circle because I really just don't trust my ability to draw a circle by hand, and that's okay. There are things, oh boy, that I might have been better off drawing it by hand. Let's try again. We're gonna try it again. What I was going to say before I realized what a goofy looking circle that was is that there are things that some of us are good at and there are things that we are not good at, and that's okay. I know that I am not the best artist, so when I can have a little help, get a little hand from something like tracing or a light table, that is a huge help to me. I'm still not the most satisfied with that circle, but that's all right. We're gonna see if when we cut it out, we can make it a little better. The problem is my paint bottle has a little like dip underneath, so it's not totally flat against the table, and my pencil keeps kind of ducking underneath the lip of the bottle. That's okay. We're gonna cut it out and just see what happens. Sometimes when we have a plan, we think it's gonna work really well, it doesn't work out the way we think it's gonna, and that's what's happening here, but that's okay. We are gonna just roll with it and see if we can make it work. It's good to be flexible when you're doing crafts, when you're doing anything really, but especially when you're doing crafts. Sometimes things don't go exactly as you think they're gonna, but it's still fun to do, and sometimes it still turns out exactly the way you hoped it would. So, you know what, like this, I think that that's actually a pretty decent circle. It's not perfectly round, but we're gonna roll with it. I like it. Let's do our other one. There we go. Okay. You know what? These turned out better than I expected them to. So like I said, sometimes you think something's not going to go the way you planned, and then if you just kind of roll with it, it still works out. So I'm going to pick my paper plate back up. It's not totally dry, but it looks like most of it is. So we're going to get our glue and get our buttons and our ears on. So our yellow buttons are going to go on Mickey's pants, so the red part of our paper plate. I'm going to try to put them as close together as I can without putting them right on top of each other, because of course his buttons are separate. So I'm just going to put one little dot of glue about here, just below the line that we drew to divide the red spot from the black spot. So let's stick one button down. We'll grab our glue again. Make sure we don't have glue sticky strings everywhere. I'm going to try to make the second button as even as I can with the first button. I'm going to do a little more glue on the bottom because he seems to not want to lay flat to the plate, and I want the buttons to sit a little flatter. Woo! Glue string out. There we go. Stop, glue, stop. There. Okay, so now that we've got our buttons on, we're going to grab our black circles for our ears, and we're going to put those at the top of the plate. Even though this is supposed to be Mickey's stomach, we're still going to put some ears on toward the top. So just a little bit of glue. This time we're going to want to stay closer to the edge of the plate, because of course Mickey's ears wouldn't be like right in the middle of his tummy. They're going to be out on the edge. So we're going to do a little glue on the edge and then stick our black circle down so that most of the circle is off the plate, kind of hanging over the edge. My glue is getting so warm that it is just glue everywhere. That's okay, we'll clean up after. It's our most important thing, right? If we are doing a fun craft project, the grown-ups in our lives would really appreciate if we clean up after ourselves. So we'll make sure we get that after. Let's get our second ear down, just like our buttons. We want to try to make them as even as we can. I think I need to scoot it just a little before our glue gets dry. Okay, I think that should be down. So now that our buttons and our ears are glued down, there we are. Oh my gosh, he's so cute. I love it. This would be a really cute craft just to put on the fridge, or if you are somebody who likes to go to Disneyland or Disney World, or if you take Disney cruises, this could be something you'd stick on your door. They do a lot of fun little door decorating on Disney cruises, so you could make these before you go and then bring them with you and stick them to your door. These are so cute. Or if you have a locker or a bedroom door, you could stick them there too. I love him. You could even do a bow and make it a mini plate. Oh, that would be really cute. Pink and white polka dots on the red instead of the gold buttons like her little polka dot dress. Ah, so cute. Well, I hope you had fun. If you made a Mickey plate at home, feel free to send us some pictures to our Facebook page, or the next time you come into the library, feel free to take pictures and show me. I love him. I think he's just adorable. So I hope you had fun. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you're having a good October. This is my favorite time of year, so I'm very excited that it's here, and I hope you're having fun too. Thanks for watching. Bye.